Restoring an image is a delicate task. Depending on the conditions of the image, there could be a lot of fixes it potentially needs. Physical damage like scratches, fold marks, or stains, photo quality being monochromatic, noisy, or blurry, and depending on the image composition, like if it's a portrait, full body, group of people, or just a scenery, a lot of things needs to be considered and can also increase the difficulty in restoring the images. While Photoshop may be the king of tools in digital image restoration, especially with the new generative fill function that might be able to repair most of the physical damage. But not everyone has access to Photoshop, the knowledge of how to use it, and the extra budget for buying Photoshop just for image restoration. So today, I'll be taking you around to check out the current best AI solutions in colorization, restoration, and enhancement. But before we dive into the services that claim they have the state-of-the-art image restorations, let's take a look at some open source AI research first, because most of the time, these open source research are the backbones for those online services, which is usually free but locked behind a paywall by someone. So right now, there are roughly three main types of image restoration. The first one is physical damage restoration. Bringing old photos back to life is a research paper published in 2020 and has been dominating the image restoration field for quite a while. The reason that I can stay on top for this long is because of its capability in detecting, masking, and repairing extremely bad scratches and fold marks, which no other AIs have been able to do. This is because this research automatically detects the scratches or the fold marks, then masking them and then painting them using the data it learned from training. So a lot of people just take this AI model, host it, and use it for their services. The second focus in image restoration is colorization. I made a video on this topic a long time ago, but the AI tech has changed quite a bit over the past few years to overcome various coloring challenges. In that old video, the top two colorization AIs, which are MyHeritage.com and Deagan, are the only ones that actually did some decent colorization. But now we have some new improvements on both of them and additions like Palette.fm, which is in the league of its own that I'll discuss later in this video. Most of these online services use or base off the research called Deagan, which is an open source research published back in November 2018. Deagan has improved quite a lot too, but I'll dive into their comparisons more later. The third type is image enhancement, where there are tools such as image super resolution, denoising, deblurring, or facial super resolution used to enhance photos. However, super resolution, denoise, or deblur are techniques that have a really deep rabbit hole and often don't differ that much or are already built in within most of the services, so I'll skip those comparisons in this video. But facial super resolution or facial upscaling is something heavily sought after in image restoration, so instead I'll be covering that mostly. Before, we had DFD-Net or GFP-Gen for fixing faces, and I have also made a video on DFD-Net a long time ago, you can check that out. But now we have CodeFormer, which is a newer AI research published in 2022 and is commonly used for fixing faces generated by Stable Diffusion, but it was initially made for facial restorations. I would say it is the current state-of-the-art open source research and can perform tasks that DFD-Net or GFP-Gen would struggle with. So yeah, these AI research are basically the backbones for most of the services that do image restorations, but since running these research models may not be as convenient and you may not even have the hardware to run them, it's time to dive into the online services where you just simply need to press upload images and get the result back. While I do have a few services in mind which I'll definitely cover, but I think it'll be more fun to incorporate an element of unknown. So let's simulate a beginner trying to get into AI restoration. After scrolling through the internet for a few seconds, I found this top 10 list for photo restoration tools, and if I was a beginner, I'd definitely try out every AI tool they mentioned on that list, so let's actually test them out to see what backbones they are using and if they are worth paying. In my opinion, the services that directly take the AI models from the open source research usually ain't worth the money, since most of the time you can just run it for free yourself, because all you need is a decent computer or find a collab notebook someone wrote to run the AI codes on. Sometimes Hugging Face or Replicate will even host these AI model runtimes for free, which is very convenient too. The ones that are actually worth the price tag are usually the ones that incorporated the AI models into a pipeline or have gathered a lot of other tools for you to operate conveniently from a simple menu. But of course, the true goldmine are the ones that develop the AI models and train it themselves. So are there any gold mines in this top 10 list? Let's find out. First, I pick around 6 images from the Library of Congress. All are high quality scans of old photos ranging from the 1860s up to 1920s. They are all monochromatic, but as there are different types of photographing methods, they can all produce different types of color based on their physical properties. So the same color can look different monochromatically than the other if the photo was taken with a different method, which make it kind of impossible to sort out which is which for non-photography gurus like me, and most of the time these differences in color are not customizable either for these colorization AIs. So I'll be disregarding the colors here and just throw them into the AIs and see if the results are good or not, because at the end of the day that's what people care about the most too. So for these 10 services, the result for colorization is that Vents AI, ImageKids, ImageColorizer.com are all using the same colorization AI backbone, which is Deodify. They provide the same result as Deodify's free online demo, so I think they're just directly linking API from them, or just hosting their model. Hotpot.ai on the other hand gives a different result. It gives a pretty low res output because you have to pay to get better image quality, but from this low res I can already tell that the colorization is different from the other ones and definitely not as good compared to Deodify. The same can be said for number 6, Colorizer.com. The colorization is just not there. For number 7, we have Photomine, which surprisingly is using something that I do not recognize. The colors do look a bit too saturated and the colorization is not on point, but it's nice to see something that is different. For number 8, the website redirected me to Vents AI, which is number 1, and number 9 told me to download their software, which I did, but it turns out they don't have a colorization function. And for number 10, we have Remini, and damn, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. This came out ages ago, and Remini was one of the most popular solutions for people to restore or colorize their image other than giving it to professionals. It was here way before AI restoration became a thing. However, a major problem that Remini has is that it's only available on mobile devices. Well, that may be good for some people in some cases, but anyways, I'll just boot up my phone quickly to show you how well it performs. It is a paid service, which is like $9 a month. However, there is a week of free trial that I can use to test out if it's good or not. Oh, and I'm not sponsored by them or any other image restoration service today. And as you can see, the results are pretty bad compared to what Deodify can do. There was barely any colorization being done, so I guess Remini ain't it. Oh, and every time when I want to save an image, it asks me if I want to save this goofy ass animation video of the image, which of course I said yes. Then that leaves only one service left, which is MyHeritage. I have kept number 4 for the last to test on because I think it would be the best. In my last colorization video 3 years ago, MyHeritage actually took the crown for being the best colorization AI. And this time, it looks like they have a really good chance to stay on top again. Or do they? Their colorization just looks completely different. The flower necklace looks really well colored. You can even say it looks a bit too real. There is no blue backdrop. The color of the face and the hair is well balanced, and it also colored the hands correctly. The downsides of MyHeritage, which some people also commented on my last video, is that it looks very saturated. Maybe the color is a bit too vivid in some cases, and it's biased towards blue, purple, cherry, and brown for most clothes, as you can see from most of these results. And it can't be helped since the colorization has no other way to be customized. Fun fact, MyHeritage actually licensed Deodify's models and had its author help improve its colorization function for them. So MyHeritage's colorization technically has the same backbone as the best free option, which is Deodify, but improved much more. However, this list missed out a colorization AI that I had my eyes on for a while. This other service is called Palette.fm and is probably the best I've seen on the market so far, and I would say it's better than MyHeritage too. Not only the colors that it generates look so natural, customizations are also available for colorization too, which is a thing that MyHeritage does not provide. Palette.fm is also capable of being fixed for the right color by either choosing a different color scheme or fixing the prompts that it generated when you input the image. And yes, Palette uses a multi-model AI model for image colorization. With this, an AI generated description about the image can be referenced by the colorizing AI so that it knows what it is coloring, which it'll look more logical. But what's even better is that the user can conveniently edit the prompt to adjust the colorization, like changing this person's hair color. While the prompt is not good for making drastic changes because some bad prompts can potentially conflict with colorization, like for instance, me saying this dark patch is white, which from a colorization standpoint, it's a pretty big contradiction. However, if there's a visual fact that you know about the person in this black and white image, it will indeed assist in colorization because it will be a fact that will align with the monochrome color scheme. Other than Palette.fm being multi-model, which was directly confirmed by myself with the author of this website, Whether the colorization is GAN based or not is a question that was left unanswered, but shout out to Emil, the author of Palette, for being super helpful in teaching me about colorization in general. Palette is not free, but the pricing is based on per image. MyHeritage is also not free, but it's a subscription based service. Some people also try using a Stable Diffusion's control net to colorize images, but of course that is a much slower and harder process because you need to go back and forth to get the colorization right. For those who are familiar with Stable Diffusion, you can also try this free method. Moving on to the next type of image restoration, we have physical damage restoration. Ranking tools in this part can become a bit tricky because if we don't count the process of automating masking, Photoshop generative fill would easily win in this category since a human would be masking the damages instead and an image generator would handle the rest like it's nothing. So if you have Photoshop and don't mind manually masking, that'll be the best option, of course. But if you want every process to be automated, here is the result. Out of the 10 on the list, with 3 of them being only colorization or don't have the automatic processing, and 1 of them is a duplicate entry, we now have only 6 left. Vens AI and Hotpot.ai are both using the same AI backbone which I mentioned earlier called bringing old photos back to life. This is obvious because the result that this AI backbone gives has a very obvious scratch that would still persist on this person's nose after restoration. So comparing a direct result from that AI backbone gave them away. For number 7, PhotoMine only has enhancements. It doesn't fix any damages, so we'll skip that. For number 9, PhotoWorks is just Photoshop. Nothing is automated in its app, so Photoshop generative fill will be a better option than this one. For number 10, Remedy does have a restoration function. However, it barely repairs anything as you can see here, so this ain't it too. But MyHeritage, I would say it has a better restoration power than bringing old photos back to life. Using the same input, the scratch on the nose is fixed and a lot of other more complicated scratches are gone. So I would say MyHeritage would definitely be the best paid option in restoring or fixing damages digitally on photos, while the AI backbone, which is bringing old photos back to life, would be the best free option. Onto the last category, which is facial restoration. It is a more domain specific technique, and aside from those open source AI research, only MyHeritage has this option for faces that doesn't directly take from them. I am skipping AI research such as Pulse and Gpan since their synthetic capabilities are too strong and can easily override the faint features that the original blurry image provides. If the blurriness on the face is not that bad, DFDNet does a better job than CodeFormer. If the blurriness doesn't really outline the facial features, CodeFormer does a better job at synthesizing logical interpretations from the blurriness. However, a major downside for DFDNet is that all the faces are cropped and upscaled individually, so it can be difficult to patch it back yourself. On top of that, you have to install and run it on your local PC because there are no online instances or collab notebooks. CodeFormer can handle not only multiple faces for you, but also upscale your background, patch the upscaled faces back for you with free runtime on Replicate for you to use. However, the results from MyHeritage in my opinion are better than CodeFormer. The faces that are upscaled look way more natural than CodeFormer. From the eyelids, the lips, to the overall color tone of the image, CodeFormer is just doing a bit too much, while MyHeritage accurately retained the traits of the original image. So CodeFormer does not necessarily stand out on top. And to conclude, over the past 3 years, MyHeritage has continuously improved its overall image restoration capabilities and kept up qualities that none others can compete with. Except for colorization, of course, where Palette.fm provides a much stronger and more customizable options for colorization, which MyHeritage does not have. So it's nice to see there are competitions in this niche and not completely dominated by a company. So to wrap everything up, for the paid options, the best colorization tool is Palette.fm, the best image restoration tool is MyHeritage, and the best facial upscaler is also MyHeritage. For the free options, the best colorization tool is Deodify, the best image restoration tool is Bring Old Photos Back to Life, and the best facial upscaler is CodeFormer. However, if you do want to learn to use the ultimate tool, aka Photoshop, to fix your photo and its new function, generative fill, today's sponsor, Skillshare, has got you covered. Skillshare is an incredible platform for you to start learning in a huge range of different creative fields, whether if it's drawing, photography, or even Photoshop that you have always wanted to get good at, Skillshare has those amazing classes to help you develop those skills and find your creative outlet. Like this one from Yeti Learn, where he teaches you how to use the latest AI technology in Photoshop, including the generative fill, which I mentioned earlier in this video. Generative fill is powered by Adobe Firefly, and it contains incredible power to help you restore images as natural as possible. And it's definitely a good tool if you do restore images pretty often. The lessons aren't that long either, so it wouldn't be a huge burden trying to finish up a huge chunk of classes. You can easily plan your weekends to learn about these new techniques without being completely overwhelmed. And if Photoshop or other creatives are not for you, there are also a lot of amazing computer science related topics that Skillshare has. For instance, if you would like to get into the field of artificial intelligence or even machine learning, this class called Deep Learning and Neural Network with Python by Frank Kane provides you with a great foundation while it introduces you to both theory and coding side of the field. So whether you want to explore a new hobby, skill up in your career, or even start your own creative business, Skillshare has classes to help you achieve your goals. What's even better is that the first 1,000 people to click the link in my description can get 1 month free to try out their ad-free and high-quality classes. So start learning now before you forget. And thank you Skillshare for sponsoring this video. And yeah, that's it for today. Hope today's video helped you in whatever you want to restore. Let me know down in the comments what you think or if I missed anything. And a big shout out to Andrew Lescelius, Chris LeDoux, Alex J, Alex Maurice, Deagan, Miguilim, FiFaڵ, Daddy Win, and many others that support me through Patreon or YouTube. Follow my Twitter if you haven't, and I'll see y'all in the next one.